After the transmigrated woman stole my body, she complacently settled into her role as the eldest daughter of the general's mansion. However, on the third day, Mother locked her in the dark chamber. After tormenting her for a month, the transmigrated woman screamed hysterically, "You, lunatic! How did you know I wasn't your daughter?" My mother chuckled darkly. Your tone when calling me mother was off. My soul hovered midair as I watched my mother snort coldly. My daughter would never call me so sweetly. The transmigrated woman glared furiously. Why not? Even if I'm not her, I'm obedient and clever. What's wrong with acknowledging me? I can bring unparalleled glory to the general's manor. Who cares about that? My mother scoffed. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. Who would have thought that merely taking an afternoon nap would eject me from my own body? Now my soul drifts weightlessly in midair. Meanwhile, my body sat down before the bronze mirror, cupping its face as it said, I quite like this new body. I desperately tried to squeeze out the unfamiliar soul within the body, only to realize I couldn't even touch my own form. The foreign soul seemed able to see me. Through the bronze mirror, her gaze landed precisely on my face. I've traveled here from the 21st century, she said, and I'll use your body to accomplish something supreme. You should be grateful. With that, she ignored me and walked straight out. To my sorrow, I discovered my soul couldn't even stray too far from the body, forced to drift along as it moved outward. The maidservant outside bowed respectfully. Young miss, tea break is prepared. The transmigrated woman suddenly reached out using my body to help the maidservant up. You're Taufu, right? No need to bow to me, we're equals. The maidservant froze, then immediately knelt down. This humble servant wouldn't dare. The transmigrated woman chuckled lightly. What an oppressive old society. Never mind, there's still time. I'll change all this. I was dragged outside the courtyard when the transmigrated woman whispered to me, look at your young mistress heirs, merely born into a good family. Yet you dare order people about. Just you wait. I'll show you what true equality means, and what it means to be the group's favorite. Her words struck me as oddly contradictory. If everyone were truly equal, how could there be any notion of being favored? The very concept of favor implies condescension from those above to those below. Once I've taken everything from you, you'll vanish like smoke. Cherish what little time you have left. With light steps, she entered my father's courtyard. My father, Lord G. Mai, held the 8th-rank position of compiler, a civil official tasked with compiling historical records at the Imperial Academy. At this moment, father was sitting under the tree playing the cheen. As the melody ended, the time-traveling woman actually started clapping. Father frowned and looked at her. I couldn't help feeling a bit smug. Father was always the most serious, holding me to the strictest standards in every aspect of daily life. This time traveler had probably angered him. But before father could speak, the woman sweetly chimed in again in an affected voice. Father's music flows like a murmuring mountain stream and rustling pine waves. Your daughter is utterly enchanted. Father's furrowed brows relaxed. You and your glib tongue, why didn't you go find your mother instead of coming to me? The time-traveling girl gently tugged at her father's sleeve. Daddy raised me. So naturally I'm closer to you. A pleased smile curled at the corners of father's mouth. That's my good girl. Your mother has been at the frontier for years. She's probably forgotten she even has a daughter in the capital. Such an unvirtuous woman, Chinga. Don't you follow her example? The time-traveling girl nodded obediently. Father speaks wisely. The two of them shared such a heartwarming father-daughter moment that it left me feeling sour and uncomfortable inside. The time-traveling woman truly possessed remarkable charisma. She merely took a casual stroll around the manor, and soon all my uncles, aunts, and cousins staying with us grew fond of her, an affection I'd sought for years but never obtained. In my despondency, even my spirit seemed to grow dimmer. Several days passed in this dazed state until the general's mansion flung open its main gates. With firecrackers and celebratory noises echoing through entire neighborhoods, a tall, magnificent horse reared as a woman dismounted, none other than my mother. Behind her followed several armored warriors, both men and women, surrounding her like stars encircling the moon, yet none, whether male or female, could match her striking presence. Mother wore a bright smile, though her thick brows were drawn low, lending her a commanding air even as her lips curved upward. Her features were handsome, though her skin was dark and weathered, towering at nearly 8 ki tall. She nonetheless moved with agility, striding swiftly through the gate. The transmigrated woman gazed at her with adoring eyes. And my heart ached fiercely. Was she about to steal yet another loved one from me? Mother Tilda, said the transmigrated girl. Her mother didn't stop walking, merely coming to stand beside the transmigrated girl before wrapping an arm around her waist and lifting her up effortlessly. Qingshan, let mother see if you've lost any weight. The transmigrated girl let out a delicate cry as she clung to her mother's shoulders, nuzzling against her affectionately. I thought to myself, I've lost. Completely lost. Mother always complains that I'm not close enough to her, and now she has a daughter who dotes on her. I pressed my hand to my chest, feeling my heartbeat gradually weaken. Having such a sweet and lovely daughter, my family would surely be happy. That was enough. I wasn't clever or gentle, only capable of stiffly offering greetings. Tears blurred my vision as I sank into a deep, unconscious slumber. I was jolted awake by screams. When I opened my eyes, darkness surrounded me. Save for the faint glow of candlelight on the table, this was a secret chamber, one used for torturing serious criminals. Mother, mother, what are you doing? The girl tied to the bed cried out in terror. I looked down at her, struck by how strange it felt to see my own face from this angle. The mother stood by the bedside, dressed in her usual plain clothes that nonetheless exuded an overwhelming presence. She crouched slightly and pinched the transmigrated woman's face, demanding, "Where did this wandering ghost come from, daring to possess my daughter's body?" "Mother, what are you saying? I'm Chinga, your own daughter, flesh of your flesh, born of your 10-month pregnancy." The mother replied, "Ah, another slip-up. My daughter's name is Hua Qingshan. She has always addressed herself respectfully as Qingshan in front of me. When has she ever called herself Chinga?" The transmigrated woman attempted to argue further. "It was father called me Chinga. I just got used to calling myself Chinga in front of him." Mother yanked her hair violently, then seemed to remember this was my body and softened her grip, merely stroking the strands instead. "You wandering ghost, what's wrong with you? Have you no parents of your own? How dare you claim others' parents? Are you some kind of spy?" Narrowing her eyes, Mother fixed the transmigrated woman with a hawk-like gaze that froze her in terror. After a long silence, the door to the secret chamber opened. A woman dressed in the blue robes of a house matron entered and whispered into Mother's ear, "General, Minister G is looking for the young miss. They say he wants to take her to the flower viewing banquet." Mother frowned. "What nonsense flower viewing banquet? Viewing my foot?" The nanny chuckled and shook her head. "The general has always been rough around the edges, but noble ladies in the capital naturally have their own ways of socializing. These young ladies only go out once every 10 days or half a month. If our young mistress declines invitations, what if the other girls stop including her?" Mother huffed angrily. "That would be quite serious indeed." As she spoke, she lifted the time-traveling woman by her collar. "You'll act exactly as my daughter would in daily life. If I discover you've tarnished my daughter's reputation or used her body for improper deeds, I'll make you experience the exquisite torture of water dripping." The transmigrated woman emerged from the secret chamber, gasping for breath. "Finally, I discovered the pattern. When she weakens, I grow stronger. When I weaken, she gains strength." Gazing at my mother's figure, a surge of immense courage welled up within me. I am the daughter of the great general of all under heaven, the 6th-generation heir of the Hua family. How could I admit defeat? How could I lose to this transmigrated woman? After leaving the secret chamber, the transmigrated woman's legs were trembling. As she sat at her dressing table, she glared at me viciously and said, "You must be feeling quite smug, aren't you?" I retorted, "You're truly shameless. You stole my body, usurped my identity, and now you dare mock me after being exposed. You can only indulge in empty talk. Don't worry. It won't be long before I completely replace you and become the most elite noblewoman of the dynasty. Then I'll enter the palace as empress and achieve greatness." I pondered carefully. The current emperor is already 50 years old, and the crown prince has passed 20. Whose empress is she talking about becoming? The old emperor. Impossible, impossible. Even she wouldn't stoop that low without limits. So does she mean to become the crown princess? But the crown prince has already formally married the daughter of the Prince of Huainan as his principal consort, and the couple is deeply affectionate and harmonious. Besides her, there's also his childhood sweetheart cousin, the legitimate daughter of the Minister of Revenue, as his secondary consort. How does she plan to squeeze into this already crowded romance? How on earth can she become empress? It's driving me crazy wanting to know. Mother rode a tall horse while the time-traveling woman sat in a soft sedan chair, accompanied by Mother's trusted confidant Aunt Yuaru and 2 maidservants. After getting off the carriage, the time-traveling woman leaned against it, clutching her chest and putting on the delicate airs of a fragile beauty. "Mother dear, I'm feeling a bit car sick, it's unbearable." Mother dismounted with a flip and clicked her tongue impatiently. "Stop pretending, I can see right through your schemes." The transmigrated woman, daughter merely wishes for a mother's affection. "Mother, won't you look at me?" Aunt Yuaru opened her mouth hesitantly. "Madam, perhaps the young mistress has been misunderstood. You've been away from home for so long." Mother glanced coolly at Aunt Yuaru. How could I not recognize my own daughter? With just that one sentence, Aunt Yuaru fell silent. She had absolute trust in Mother and never questioned anything she said. This showed how formidable the time-traveling woman's methods were. She had nearly won over even Aunt Yuaru's heart. The capital hosted flower viewing banquets all year round. This time, it was peach blossoms, nothing particularly special. The flowers weren't the main attraction. The real focus was the socializing among noble women and young ladies, as well as the matchmaking opportunities for eligible young men and women. When I was very young, Mother had already arranged a marriage engagement for me, the youngest son of the governor of Yuju. Over this matter, Father and Mother had a huge argument, ending only when Mother physically subdued Father in a fight, forcing him to reluctantly agree. Father told me that the governor of Yuju held nothing more than a 4th rank lower position. It was only because the governor's family were old friends of Mother's that she had gifted me away as a favor. But as I grew older, I increasingly realized my father was wrong. Noble ladies in the capital who were betrothed to prestigious families all began suffering indignities even before marriage, constantly cleaning up their fiancés' romantic scandals while maintaining a facade of virtuous grace. Yet my own fiancé had never once appeared before me to be an eyesore. It was from that time onward that I began guarding myself against my father. No matter how much he disparaged my mother, I refused to take it to heart. Mother was invited to the head table by the host family. Before leaving, she exchanged a glance with Aunt Yuaru, silently instructing her to keep a close watch and prevent any trouble. At that moment, my cousins came over. Normally, my relationship with them was lukewarm, barely maintaining a nodding acquaintance. Unexpectedly, the transmigrated girl jumped in place, her flowing scarf dancing with the wind. Though improper by etiquette standards, it was undeniably lively and charming. "Brother. Little brother, over here." My elder cousin walked over, pleased yet restrained. "Little sister has become much more vivacious now." The younger cousin chimed in. "Yes, I really like sister as she is now," the time-traveling woman said gently. "From now on, elder sister will always stay by your side like this." The cousin said, "If that's the case, then nothing could be better. By the way, little sister, you mentioned before that you'd ask second aunt to secure me an official position in the army. Does that offer still stand?" The time-traveling woman nodded. "Of course it still stands. Brother and I are family, and family should support each other. Sister is so kind. Then I beg sister to arrange for me to enter Lingfeng Academy too. In the future, with brother mastering martial arts and me excelling in literature, will surely make sister the most envied noble lady in the capital." My soul floats in the air. This is the first time I've observed the people around me from a third-person perspective. My cousin chasing fame and fortune, my sweet-faced but venomous younger cousin. No wonder Mother always wrote letters telling me not to trust father, not to trust father's brothers and their families. In the past, I didn't understand why. I just obeyed Mother and kept my distance from them. Only now do I realize these blood-sucking parasites disguised in human skin living around me. The time-traveling woman was coaxed into beaming with joy, but I couldn't hold back any longer. Gathering all my strength, I shouted, "What mutual support? Isn't it just all of you leeching off my mother like parasites? You men always boast about being great heroes, yet you live off my mother's salary while looking down on her. How shameless to still use her connections." After my outburst, I felt as if all my energy had been drained, yet my scolding, my fury, seemed as weightless as a soul, about to dissipate into thin air. The time-traveling woman curled her lips into a smile. "Black cat or white cat, as long as it catches mice, it's a good cat." In the unseen corner, she looked up at me and said, "The world doesn't care how you climbed to power, they only know they must obey whoever sits atop. A thief who stole another's body now leads 2 more thieves to steal others' achievements. Where is justice in this world? Where is truth?" After exchanging pleasantries, everyone took their seats. Before the banquet began, someone from the palace arrived as well. After a clear announcement of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince arrives, a nobleman dressed in purple casual robes strode in. He appeared to be around 20 years old, with ink-black hair and jade-white skin. Though not exceptionally handsome, he carried an extraordinary air of dignity. Those present rose one after another to pay their respects. The Crown Prince laughed heartily and said, "At ease, everyone. My sudden visit hopefully hasn't interrupted your refined pleasures." The transmigrated woman's gaze clung to the Crown Prince. Just as I thought she had fallen in love at first sight, she suddenly curled her lips into a faint smile. Her eyes showed not a trace of affection, but rather an overwhelming ambition, as if she had met a rival. After taking his seat, the Crown Prince first greeted his mother. "General Hua has just returned to the capital and surely doesn't know what prosperity and happiness the border troops have been guarding. This humble prince toasts you, and all the soldiers." He raised his wine cup and downed it in one gulp. "Not to be outdone," Mother replied, "your subject toasts your highness. This subject is a rough soldier, not good with words. So I toast to your highness's provisions, to your highness's winter clothing, to your highness's trust." After 3 rounds of drinks, the Crown Prince lightly tapped the table with his knuckles. "Would any talented noble lady be willing to perform? This prince will add some rewards." He took out a token, which was immediately received by an attendant and hung high. The Crown Prince's token could be used to enter and exit properties under his name, perfect for entertainment rewards. Maids and servants instantly swarmed in to register their masters for performances. The first noble lady, Miss Sue, took the stage and performed a rapid and precise abacus calculation. The Crown Prince laughed heartily. "How thoughtful of you to come up with such a performance. It seems Miss Sue will surely be a skilled household manager after her marriage." These words proved more effective than the token itself, and Miss Sue joyfully performed a deep bow. Soon after, several young masters took the stage to showcase sword dances and poetry games, offering everything from literary to martial displays. Just as a noble lady was playing the guqin, the time-traveling woman suddenly grabbed a wooden sword and eagerly rushed forward. Judging by her stance, she intended to perform swordplay in harmony with the music. Yet, the moment she stood up, Aunt Yuaru swiftly pressed a white handkerchief to her face. Her body went limp, and she collapsed onto Aunt Yuaru's shoulder, unconscious. Young miss, Aunt Yuaru feigned concern. "It seems the young miss has had too much to drink," Aunt Yuaru said with a smile. No doubt she was overjoyed by the rare occasion of the general's return to the capital and the chance to converse with all the young ladies on such a fine day. Several noble ladies who were friendly with me laughed and said, "Qingshan is usually the most dignified. Who would have thought she also has such a childish side? We'll have to trouble Auntie to take good care of Qingshan." Aunt Yuaru replied, "Thank you for your concern, young ladies. My young mistress usually doesn't have many playmates, so she's always delighted whenever she sees you all. If you ever have time, please do visit the general's residence." Aunt Yuaru half carried, half supported the transmigrated woman as they withdrew. The Crown Prince at the head table asked, "General Hua, it seems Miss Hua has withdrawn. That greedy monkey must have gotten drunk from drinking too much." The general replied, "I never expected General Hua to be able to drink 1,000 cups without getting drunk. Yet her daughter, haha, Your Highness is mocking your subject. General Hua has only this one daughter, she must be treasured like the apple of his eye. Why don't I petition His Majesty to arrange a marriage for Miss Hua? I have a cousin, 16 years old, young and promising. Mother interrupted him, Your Highness, I only wish Qingshan could freely choose the life she wants to live. My daughter has loved running about since she was little, but as your humble servant must go to war, I had no choice but to lock her at home. Might your Highness grant her some idle official post? What title shall we bestow? Let this princess ponder. If the rank is too low, Qingshan will roam freely and the position won't protect her. Yet too high an office would burden her with heavy responsibilities. How about making her the Eastern Palace's vanguard, to survey these splendid lands on this princess's behalf? Your servant is eternally grateful. The transmigrated woman was drugged unconscious, and as her consciousness faded, mine grew sharper, so sharp that I could hear my mother's conversation with the crown prince. She hadn't arranged a marriage for me. Instead, she secured me an official post. When the transmigrated woman woke again, she found herself in the dark chamber once more. This time, she didn't scream, only whimpered and wept pitifully. Mother, why have you tied me up again? What did I do wrong? Mother held a knife, its sheath pressed against the transmigrated woman's forehead, and smiled as she asked, Tell me, what were you planning to do with that wooden sword at the banquet? My daughter merely wished to perform swordplay to liven the occasion. As the renowned General Hua's daughter, I simply wanted the nobility to witness the elegance of our general's manner. Her mother tapped her forehead, but my Qingshan doesn't perform swordplay. She embroiders, plays the zither, paints, calculates with an abacus. Mother has been away for so long, how would you know how desperately I've practiced swordplay just to feel closer to you? Tears streamed down the transmigrated woman's face like pear blossoms glistening with rain. Enough. You lonely ghost, don't use my daughter's body to cry, Mother said, turning her head again to Aunt Yueru. Yueru, keep an eye on her. I'm going to Fahua Temple to invite the master. In the following hours, Aunt Yueru blindfolded the time-traveling woman and pierced holes in the bottom of a container, letting water drip onto her forehead drop by drop. At first, she wept, then panicked. After half an hour, she began to growl lowly, like a helpless trapped beast. Miss, oh miss. Please come back soon. Don't let wandering spirits take over your body, Aunt Yueru muttered incessantly. The time-traveling woman wailed, Yueru, Mother doesn't believe me, and neither do you. You were always the one who loved me most since I was little, don't you remember? You once crawled on the ground pretending to be my horse, and when I fell into the water, it was you who risked your life to pull me out, even though you couldn't swim yourself. A flicker of emotion flashed in Yueru's eyes. But she quickly pinched her own thigh. I won't listen, I won't listen. I refuse to hear your words, I only heed the general's commands. I found it amusing inwardly. The transmigrated woman's efforts were wasted. Aunt Yueru was steadfast. Aside from Mother's words, she wouldn't listen to anyone else. Yueru's gaze grew increasingly resolute. Young mistress, oh young mistress, please come back soon. You are the general's child, and the general's child should inherit his decisiveness and strength. The general was truly an extraordinary man among men. How about I tell you stories of the general instead? The time-traveling woman's eyes filled with despair. I don't want to hear it. No, you do. Aunt Yueru, like a fervent devotee of her mistress, rambled on incessantly. Though the general is now called Hua Wudi, she was once known as Hua Didi as in flute. I was sold into the Hua household when I was very young, and it was always the general who protected me. Do you know why the general was named Di, the transmigrated woman? Because when Madam was giving birth to the general, the master played his flute outside the delivery room all night. Others might have been moved by the master and Madam's love story, but the general was different from ordinary people even as a child. She asked Madam, what about you? Didn't you endure excruciating pain all night? If it were up to me, I'd rather be the one playing the flute all night. As Aunt Yueru spoke, I could almost see the image of my young, tender mother in her mind, so unconventional, so extraordinary. Aunt Yueru spoke with such emotion that tears streamed down her face. The young mother, having witnessed her grandfather's death and his corpse being hung on the city walls by foreigners as humiliation, sought vengeance but was stopped by her grandmother, who threatened to take her own life. Later, my uncle, whom I never met, took his father's place in the army and died within a year. The peace bought with his life lasted merely 3 months. The grandmother forcibly arranged a marriage for the mother and confiscated her sword and armor. Meanwhile, the 2 concubines tearfully sent the mother's half-brother off to war on one side, the joyous sounds of betrothal drums, on the other, the sorrowful departure of warriors. The mother's half-brother fell in battle 6 months later. Though the concubines never blamed the grandmother, she was overcome with guilt and vomited blood on the spot, passing away not long after. After grandmother passed away, mother tore up her marriage contract, retrieved her saber and armor, ascended the court hall, and beat up the newly crowned martial arts champion. The emperor was overjoyed, granting her the commander's seal, bestowing an official title, confiscating the properties of treacherous ministers, and after seizing their silver, sent mother off to the battlefield. Mother was even braver than grandfather, and coupled with her meticulous attention to detail, she reclaimed 13 provinces at an astonishing speed. Almost overnight, mother became the talk of every young woman in the capital. When she rode back to the city on her majestic steed, bold young women even threw silk flowers at her. Mother casually caught one, raised her eyebrows to glance at the young lady in the upstairs chamber, who immediately blushed crimson and fainted on the spot. It said that when she woke up, she packed her belongings and fled home to start a business. Back then, mother was so free-spirited and unrestrained. Unfortunately, Aunt Uaru's words only stirred my emotions, leaving the transmigrated woman completely unmoved. But soon I realized, though her emotions remained calm, she knew how to pretend. Suddenly, the transmigrated woman shuddered. She composed herself instantly, her voice transforming almost into another person's. Who dares tie me up? Release me at once. I am General Hua's daughter. Aunt Uaru immediately halted the punishment, pulling the cloth from the time-traveling woman's face. Miss, is it really you who's returned? My soul was clearly floating in midair. The time-traveler's gaze was dazed. You're Aunt Uaru from my mother's side. Why have you tied me up? Have you betrayed my mother? Aunt Uaru exclaimed joyfully. This time it's real. The young miss finally called the general mother. Not Mama. Not Mama, it must truly be our young miss, I shouted. She's fake, she's lying to you. Unfortunately, Aunt Uaru couldn't hear me. She fumbled anxiously to remove the time-traveling woman's handcuffs. Aunt Uaru, I'm hungry. I want something to eat. Could you remove the leg irons too? Aunt Uaru shook her head. Young mistress, please rest first. When the general returns and confirms your identity, he'll naturally have them removed. Then this old servant will kneel for a full day and night to atone. The transmigrated woman's eyes darkened. Seizing the moment when Aunt Uaru turned to prepare food, she picked up the heavy handcuffs and smashed them down with a vicious swing. Aunt Uaru collapsed instantly. I lunged forward at this moment. I even wanted to perish together with her. This lunatic, she stole my body and used it to hurt the people I care about. But I stumbled right through her form, helplessly crashing to the ground. The transmigrated woman rattled her shackles, cursing and growling. System, come out, help me remove these shackles. Whatever the system said in response, she continued, I agree, I'll trade my life for it. Zheng Shengnan will make sure this mother-daughter pair is utterly annihilated. So her name was Zheng Shengnan. As her words faded, the shackles snapped apart, clattering loudly to the ground. Zheng Shengnan laughed with sinister glee as she grabbed the knife from the table and pointed it straight at Aunt Uaru. At that moment, I burst into laughter, and Zheng Shengnan's movements froze. What are you laughing at? I'm happy, I said, by killing Aunt Uaru. You've essentially declared war on my mother. Your mother doesn't trust me anyway. What does it matter if I declare war? Oh, I replied, then go ahead and try. Aunt Uaru has been with my mother longer than I have. Let's see if my mother will grind your bones to dust even if you're using my body. Go ahead and kill Aunt Uaru. I'd rather die with you than let you use my body to harm my mother. Zheng Shengnan's eyes darkened. Without responding to me, she lowered the knife instead. Glancing at the unconscious Aunt Uaru, She let out a cold laugh before turning to leave. Zheng Shengnan went to father's courtyard, weeping pitifully as she poured out her hatred toward mother. Father patted her shoulder gently, yet his face betrayed a pleased expression. I'm relieved that the daughter I raised didn't inherit her mother's domineering and selfish ways. Zheng Shengnan looked up with madness in her eyes. Father, why don't we go all the way? I'm her daughter. So it's only right that I inherit everything from her, her army, her official position. Only then can father and I live a good life. Her father examined her as if suddenly not recognizing his own daughter. After a long silence, he sighed. Chinga, your father agrees. Because you're my only child left, he continued. Your mother was domineering and cold-hearted. Back when my family fell on hard times, she took advantage of having saved us to force me into a matrilocal marriage. For the sake of my entire G family, I had no choice but to swallow my pride and enter the general's manor. Who would have thought this woman wasn't content to simply bask in the general manor's prestige? She insisted on going to the battlefield and dragging me along with her. I endured 3 years with her amidst endless yellow sands, going hungry and cold every day. 3 years later, she temporarily repelled the foreign tribes, became pregnant that same year, and gave birth to you. But after you were born, she didn't even hold you once before leaving the tent. Who knows where she went? Later on, she asked me to bring you back to the capital. But who would have thought that on the way, I was attacked by bandits, injured my body, and could never have children again. After she returned to the capital, she hypocritically comforted me, saying that as long as I raised you well, you wouldn't be any worse than a son, and she wouldn't look down on me. Father's voice grew venomous, but not long ago, I discovered that those bandits had actually been pardoned long ago and are now stationed in the capital's suburban patrol battalion, whose commander is your mother's old subordinate. That vile woman, she's the one who ruined me. She actually deceived me for so many years. Chinga, you are my only child, but your mother is still young. She can still bear more children, if she were to have a son out of wedlock someday. Your position would be in grave danger. The two men stared at each other, their eyes burning with hatred for the same woman. Yet suddenly, I felt myself relax. No, it wasn't just relaxation, I was downright exhilarated. My mother stood tall, possessed immense strength, and was blessed with extraordinary intelligence. 16 years ago, she could lay a trap that would confine my father for half his life and instantly recognize the true identity of a transmigrated woman. How could these two possibly be a match for my mother now? When two fools come together, does that somehow make them wise? My mood was exceedingly joyful, so much so that even my soul form grew more substantial. These two idiots, though not particularly bright, came up with methods that were utterly revolting. Zheng Shengnan was going to enter the palace. She intended to become the old emperor's concubine. The emperor was so ancient, yet she could actually bring herself to kiss him. Then again, she wasn't using her own mouth, she was using mine. When mother returned from Feynman Temple, she arrived too late. Zheng Shengnan had already delivered herself to the palace. After my soul became more solidified, my range of movement and perception improved significantly. So even though I'm currently in the palace, I can roughly sense the emotions of my mother, who worries about me. She showed not the slightest displeasure. In fact, she seemed to find the situation quite amusing. The old emperor smiled at Zheng Shengnan, his face creasing with wrinkles. Qingshan, was it General Hua's idea for you to enter the palace? Your Majesty, it was my admiration for you that led me to beg my family to let me enter the palace, she replied. She deliberately mentioned family in an attempt to confuse. Then you may settle here peacefully, the old emperor said, bestowing upon her the Shumin Palace. Shumin Palace had been the residence of the late elder princess. Zheng Shengnan replied meekly, this humble concubine obeys your Majesty's decree. Her self-reference naturally shifted from your subject to your concubine, startling the old emperor so much his beard trembled 3 times. Zheng Shengnan spent one night in the palace, during which the old emperor sent several princesses to keep her company. The unspoken message was clear: forget about being a concubine, go play with the princesses instead, youngster. The next day, the old emperor summoned Zheng Shengnan and said amiably, did you enjoy your stay in the palace? It's getting late, let your mother take you home. After all, She's your only family now, you must be filial to her. General Hua has had a hard life. Zheng Shengnan looked up in astonishment. My only family. The old emperor stroked his beard. Indeed, last night General Hua sent a message saying your father Ji Mai has gone mad upon learning you're not his biological child. Now he's clamoring to become a monk at Fahua Temple. Now I understand General Hua's intention. She must think the official position the crown prince granted you was too insignificant. Ha ha ha, very well. I hereby appoint you as Grand Astrologer and confer upon you the official seal. A eunuch nearby respectfully presented the jade identity plaque. What fortune you have, Miss Hua. The last Grand Astrologer was His Highness Prince Gong, since his passing. This position has remained vacant for 5 years. Zheng Shengnan stood dumbfounded until a eunuch promptly reminded her. Grand Astrologer Hua, please kowtow to express your gratitude. She numbly complied, and by the time she regained her senses, she had already been escorted out of the Hall of Mental Cultivation. Suddenly, as if gone mad, she clenched her teeth and cried, Your Majesty, this subject wishes to expose General Hua for harboring treasonous intentions. My heart skipped a beat. She truly had lost her mind, daring to utter such words. I felt rage surging within me, even sensing the faint stirrings of breaking free from the restraints binding my body. How dare you slander my mother with such nonsense? I'll tear your mouth apart. I resolved then and there to perish together with her. A blinding white light flashed before my eyes, followed by sensation returning to my right arm. The consequence of burning my life force with all my might was regaining control of my right hand. With tremendous effort, I raised my hand, pulled out the hairpin, and drove it toward my throat. The cries and shouts around me grew distant, leaving only the wind's mournful howl enveloping me, yet it seemed to praise my courage. I've been a noble lady since childhood. What makes a noble lady isn't pampered luxury, but the willingness to sacrifice one's life to protect what must be protected. Just as the hairpin pierced my skin, a leaf sprang forth, knocking the weapon from my hand. Mother strode over swiftly, lifting my slender frame with her hands. Qingshan, your mother is here. Close behind was the master from Feimen Temple, who pressed his palms together and said, General Hua, do not fret. Miss Hua possesses the strength to break free from these bonds on her own. He gazed at me with compassion, while my mother's eyes shifted from initial heartache to trust. In that moment, I seemed to understand something, and mother seemed to understand something too, as she cried out loudly, Qingshan, I love you, not just because we're bound by blood, not just because you're my daughter, but because you're courteous and wise, you know propriety, you distinguish right from wrong. And you're kind-hearted, you're the finest girl under heaven. And your courage doesn't come from me, it comes from yourself. You're a qualified, outstanding person. You can drive her away. Ever since I was little, I knew I had a mother of unparalleled elegance and talent. At 16, her father and brothers fell in battle, the entire Hua family martyred for their loyalty, while border tribes united, determined to tear a fat chunk from our empire. Yet the previous emperor had favored scholars over warriors, leaving the court devoid of capable commanders. It was then my mother strode into the grand hall clad in battle armor. Historians recorded, the eldest Hua maiden stood 8 feet tall, with broad shoulders tapering to a narrow waist. Features more striking than any man's, her presence overwhelming. The new emperor ascended the throne already past 40, after 20-odd years as crown prince. His father bequeathed him only crumbling ruins of governance. Ravenous for greatness, he saw his 40s as the prime age for conquest. Thus he resolutely placed the commander's seal in my mother's hands. Then mother knelt before the court and declared, Your subject receives the imperial decree. This humble servant goes forth, first to repay the boundless grace of his majesty, second for the people of the frontier, and third to avenge the loyal martyrs of the Hua family. When your servant has exacted vengeance, I shall surely return to the capital to surrender my commander's seal. At that time, I beg your majesty to grant permission for this humble servant to retire to our ancestral home in Xinjiang and live out my remaining years in peace. These words struck right at the emperor's heart. A general who could fight, had personal grievances to settle, yet harbored no lust for military power. the trust between sovereign and subject became unshakable. And so mother went to war. At first, there were murmurs about her, but within months, she had won everyone's hearts through her achievements. War is a grueling affair, so mother sent me back to the capital. In those early days after returning to the capital, life was quite difficult. Father drowned his sorrows in drink all day, paying me no mind. Only 2 elderly maids attended to me. They treated me kindly, yet their constant chatter between themselves remained incomprehensible to me. No one cared about the rich inner world of a child barely a few years old. It wasn't until I turned 6 that mother briefly returned to the capital to visit me. Stroking my head, she took me visiting various noble households, where I made many young friends. Happy times are always fleeting. Mother stayed only 3 days before rushing back in haste. When I grew a little older, I realized the noble girls surrounding me didn't actually like me. Their families had instructed them to humor me. Perhaps I'm just an ordinary, dull child. My popularity stemmed from my mother, heaven's favored daughter. I was merely someone standing close to her radiance, mistakenly believing I shone too. I felt my tears falling from my eyes. Mother, I opened my mouth. Qingshan, since you were 8 years old, you've been distributing porridge outside the city gates on the first day of every month. Some called you hypocritical, but you simply replied with serene indifference. If I can keep this up for a lifetime, then it ceases to be hypocrisy. Qingshan, when you were 9, your childhood friend Miss Li fell into misfortune. Her family was exiled. She begged you to save her using your imperial pardon token. Yet you refused, for the Li family had amassed wealth through corruption, squeezing the people dry and ruining countless families. Watching Miss Li's tear-streaked face, you told her, Liu Yun, if I help you, I'd be betraying countless others. Friends called you heartless, but I knew you were clear-eyed, unwavering in your principles. Your father always speaks ill of me, both openly and covertly, yet you never take his words at face value. You refute him with reason and evidence, though out of filial piety, you know when to stop. The body is not a tree, nor is the mirror bright a stand. All things are but illusions, and unreal matters are not truth. The world I inhabit is real, and I am my true self. Who cares if I'm outstanding or ordinary? Who gets to define me? Who gets to judge me? Who gets to control me? I am who I am. Hua Qingshan. At this thought, the boulder blocking my chest fell away, my soul growing heavier until it fully reclaimed control of my body. Just then, I heard a scream. Host, it's over. Hua Qingshan is the real protagonist. Zheng Shengnan's howl came through. You useless waste. What good are you anyway? The screeching voice continued. It's all Hua Wudi's fault. She's just a supporting character, yet she shines so brightly it made me mistake her. Enough with this nonsense. Hurry up and tell me what to do. I don't care. This is your work, Blunder. Don't pin it on me. Get me out of this world now. ZZZZT. Dream on. The remaining energy is only enough for me to leave. Goodbye. Before their argument could conclude, a bolt of lightning struck, transforming the translucent figure mid-air into solid form, a woman who tumbled to the ground. She wore bizarre clothing, her face twisted in terror. System, system, she cried out. It was Zheng Shengnan's voice. I couldn't mistake it. She was detained as a demon, while at the same time, a golden light enveloped me, affecting those around me as well. The old emperor and the crown prince, who had rushed over, felt nothing but warmth spreading through their bodies. The old emperor coughed up black water, and the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes visibly diminished. Meanwhile, the crown prince's back, injured years ago, straightened effortlessly. My mother's chronic ailments were mostly healed, and my transformation was the most striking. Just moments ago, I had been suffering from excruciating headaches, but now I felt invigorated. Even the guards and eunuchs reaped benefits. The old emperor, his eyes gleaming with excitement, exclaimed, Divine intervention, divine intervention. Surely our devotion has moved the heavens, and they have bestowed blessings upon great Jew. Long live your majesty. 10,000 years, 10,000 times 10,000 years. The crowd knelt and cheered. From that day onward, the old emperor began looking at me with paternal affection. Were it not for my status as the sole young mistress of the Hua family, he might have even made me a princess, after mother's chronic illness was cured. She grew increasingly formidable. Within 3 years, she had completely pacified the border regions. Later, she surrendered the tiger Tali as promised. The old emperor, believing he had accomplished a monumental achievement for the ages, abdicated on the spot and wandered off into retirement. The crown prince ascended the throne. He hadn't expected to become emperor so smoothly, having thought he'd have to wait until 40 like his predecessor. The new emperor, with tears in his eyes, specially approved the establishment of an academy for our Hua family, naming it the Bo Academy to recruit martial arts practitioners. My mother happily took up the position of dean. She disliked war, she loathed war, but she loved martial arts. Becoming the dean was truly the best outcome for her. It's worth mentioning that mother enjoyed extremely high prestige among the common people. Many women regarded her as someone to admire, which unexpectedly inspired numerous women to take up martial arts. Practicing martial arts strengthened the body, and with better health, everything became easier, whether in business or academics. This led to a sudden rise of female merchants and poets. As I traveled through mountains and rivers, I compiled their poetic essence into a volume, forming the initial illustrated compendium of the world. Starting with me, later generations continued to add content to this book. I finally understood Zheng Shengnan's last words: Hua Qingshan is the true protagonist. It turns out I truly was the protagonist, except the protagonist was me, and so was the author, and beyond me, every person under heaven could be the same, regardless of gender, age, or social status. Side story: General Hua's Husband Selection Chronicles. My name is Hua Wudi, a name I chose myself. When I was dispatched for the expedition, Jimai fell into misfortune, to tell the truth. He was just unlucky. After enduring countless hardships to travel to the capital for the imperial examinations, he stayed with a distant relative whose house was 18 degrees of separation away. Before he could settle in for more than a few days, his relative's household was raided, and he was nearly thrown into prison as collateral damage. Just as he was being arrested, he clung to my leg, pleading, "Heroine, save me, I'm innocent." I studied his face, handsome features twisted with fear. Looking utterly pitiful. Most importantly, he had excellent judgment. Recognizing at a glance that I was a heroine, I was thoroughly pleased, so I saved him, and he declared his willingness to follow me to the ends of the earth if need be. Do you know what a woman finds hardest to resist? Naturally, it's a man of striking beauty pledging his loyalty, so I scooped him up and took him straight to the border. He remained dazed for a long time, staying that way until the 13th level. Holding his hand tenderly, I said affectionately, "I know you adore me, and I adore you too. Why don't we get married today? From now on, you'll marry into my Hua family. Don't worry, as long as I have meat to eat, you'll have soup to drink." The question I asked my mother in my youth finally had an answer. If women can achieve great deeds, then it's only fair for men to bear children and manage household chores for them. Biting his lip, he asked, "Aren't you the eldest daughter of the Hua family? Didn't your mother wish for you to marry into another family?" I pinched his cheek. "Sure, baby, I prefer you to call me General Flower, or Heroine, it gets me more excited." Jimai's face turned pale with shyness. "I suppose I have some talent for warfare, capable of both commanding battles and charging into bloody combat." Within 3 years, I reclaimed all 13 lost passes, and it was then that I discovered I was with child. The military doctor examined him and said, "The young master is truly sensible and considerate." The general hardly had any severe reactions while carrying him. I burst into laughter. Maybe it's a young lady. The sensation of sharing a bloodline with such a tiny being feels utterly novel. Perhaps what little tenderness I possess in this lifetime has been entirely devoted to this little one. The delivery went smoothly too. I'm big-boned, and the little one was tiny, so she came out without much effort, skinny and small. Before she was born, I told the soldiers, "Don't slack off, I'll be back right after giving birth, and whoever I catch slacking during morning drills will get a beating from me." After she was born, I let her tiny fingers wrap around my pinky and just stared at her foolishly the entire day. The soldiers outside the tent groaned incessantly. "When will the general come out? I really can't train anymore." "Sure, shut up, you idiot. The general is a woman, and right now she's at her most vulnerable." Don't disturb her. Wow, you're terrifying. How dare you say the general is a woman? If anyone's a woman here, it'd be me. Shut your mouth. You've been completely dominated by women your whole life, beaten by your mom as a kid, beaten by the general when you grew up, and you'll get beaten by your wife once you're married. And yet you still dare to mock women. The sounds outside grew fainter as I listened, and I fell into a sweet sleep holding my daughter, before my child was born. I had already given her a name, Qingshan. Yueru smiled and said, Miss should pick another name too, just in case it turns out to be a little miss. That's also called Qing Mountain, majestic Qing Mountain. How can mountains distinguish between men and women? Qingshan had been frail since childhood. The army doctor said the child was too young to endure the climate here, so when she turned 3, I had Jimai take her back to the capital. Before their departure, Yueru was extremely worried. Miss, I don't think Mr. G knows how to take care of the little miss. Standing on the hillside, watching the carriage sway its way back, I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. He'll treat Qingshan well. I had briefly fancied Jimai, but after calming down, I realized he was quite transparent. His eyes held no affection for me or Qingshan, only dark, fathomless desire. Having lived nearly half my life, if I could let such a man climb over my head and take advantage of me, then I'd truly have wasted my years. What followed was inevitable. After the carriage convoy returned to the outskirts of the capital, it was ambushed by bandits. Jimai lost his ability to father children. Qingshan would be his only child for life. The old nursemaid by Qingshan's side kept writing to me. My Qingshan grew up well in places beyond my sight, only that father of hers was truly infuriating. When Qingshan was 6 years old, she was punished by Jimai to kneel in the ancestral hall for writing characters incorrectly. Since there was a valid reason, even the 2 elderly maids couldn't intercede. So they wrote to inform me. You asked beside me, did the little miss throw a tantrum? I remember when you were young, madam. You'd always climb trees or scale walls to escape whenever the master punished you, leaving him helpless. The latter half of the letter mentioned that Qingshan obediently knelt in the ancestral hall for half the night. However, she had tied thick cotton pads to her knees and had a carpenter make a small stool that could be hidden under her skirt, so she didn't suffer much. You worriedly said, the little miss didn't inherit your fearless courage. I patted Yueru's head. That's not how it is. Everyone's personality is shaped by their upbringing. I'm carefree and domineering because my parents indulged me. As for Qingshan, her mother wasn't by her side, and her father didn't love her. This child, I've failed her. Besides, filial piety weighs heavier than heaven. Over the past decade or so, I've returned a few times. Each time, little Qingshan would stand stiffly with a solemn face, bowing respectfully. Just as I was blaming myself for giving her too little affection and thinking she didn't like me, I saw her tiny shadow following beside me in the sunlight. That dark little shadow stretched out its small hand, hooked my larger shadow's hand, then raised its index finger pretending to touch my armor. This daughter of mine, so proper on the surface, had actually hidden thousands of words, all in her heart. I grasped her tiny hand and leaned down, saying, Little Qingshan, do you miss your mother? Up we go. Mother, this isn't proper. Little Qingshan's face flushed crimson, yet she kept insisting on propriety. Too adorable. So when Qingshan turned 16, our army achieved a great victory. Upon returning to the capital to receive imperial rewards, the moment I arrived at the general's residence, I could tell at first glance this wasn't Qingshan. What kind of demon dares to possess my Qingshan's body? While playing along, I instantly subjected the wandering spirit to mental torture. What nonsense. Did they really think this old lady was a fool? What mother wouldn't recognize her own daughter? What? Qingshan's father couldn't tell the difference. Then he doesn't deserve to be called a father. I grabbed him by the throat and pinned him against the wall. Had enough of your comfortable life. His eyes were bulging with rage, so I added, Qingshan isn't even your biological daughter. Why are you in such a hurry to send her into the palace? He flew into a frenzy, screaming and shouting like a madman, declaring he would renounce the world and become a monk. Let him go then, who could stop him? Qingshan had grown up, and he was no longer of any use. Without hesitation, I sent him and his leech-like brothers off to Feynman Temple to take monastic vows. But Feynman Temple actually cares about quality. The very next day, they kicked the whole lot of them out. After returning to her body, Qing Shan hugged me tightly, burying her head shyly as she murmured, "Mommy." The injured Yuaru limped over in alarm, exclaiming, "Why is she still calling you mommy? Could she still be possessed?" But I just laughed and lifted Qing Shan into the air. "Little Qing Shan, did you miss mommy? Up we go."